Hello, all, and this is not a typical Saturday. It did not go as planned. I actually had to work today, but cramps said otherwise, and I was down bad. But I did get enough energy to be able to get up and organize my closet, which is what I normally do. But I just want to confess to you guys that I have a secret. That secret is that I have been hiding from trying to seek new relationships, new friendships. It has just been really, really hard. And I know that grief and just shattered relationships just kind of led me there to hide, with just dealing with the new transitions of these sad relationships. And these weren't just relationships that were just casual or like maybe like a employee or anything of that nature, a coworker, but these were relationships that were deep to me and close to me and near and dear to my heart. And as a result of those loss and those end of those relationships, I have been grieving them so long that I just hid. And I hid because I just did not want to be hurt again. I've seems like I dated every guy, and all the guys after me end up married or engaged to somebody else. And that was the case for one of the guys that I was with for quite some time. And it just so happened to crash all in my face in the same month as my mother passing. So needless to say, I've just been hiding because I don't want to deal with heartbreak again. I don't want to deal with betrayal again. I don't want to deal with loss again. But truthfully, that means that makes God second and then puts me first. And that means I'm just trying to control the situation, knowing that eventually I long for a deep connection, like in terms of just a relationship or a romantic relationship, or just, a deep friendship with friends that just, don't look at me crazy when I say stuff, or don't say I ramble, or, I long for those deep connections. But, I do know that, sometimes that's just a way of thinking I'm protecting myself. But true healing comes when I just bring those broken places to God, and also, realize that I have to expose myself. I have to go out there into these places and not take away that God can manage these relationships instead of me managing them myself. Now, here's a few things that I know. So I'm just a little backstory about my closet. So I have multiple roommates. And in those multiple roommates, I had to condense rooms. So that's why my closet looks like this. But hopefully by summer, it will not look like this anymore. Yeah, that's a whole nother story for another day. But I just want to talk to you about hiding and then just longing for those relationships and deep connections, outside of just my animals and stuff. And, now just FYI, this isn't not hoarding. I have a lot of stuff, yes, but as I said, I had to condense a lot of stuff as a result of me having multiple roommates. I used to have just a coat closet and a coat/shoe/bag closet, and that just worked out fine. But as I said, when I had people move in, I had to condense a lot of that. So this is me trying to condense everything in this closet. But I will tell you this, though. Here are a few things that I've just noticed that sometimes when just us women, I'm talking about us ladies, that, when we've been hurt or been betrayed by somebody, sometimes we just want to do things like hide behind church activities, right? Just being so involved in church this, church that, church this, church that. Now, hear me out and hear me good. I love the Lord. You know what I'm saying? I really do. I am blood washed. I firmly believe that Jesus Christ died for my sins, and he rose again on the third day, and he is seated right next to God himself. And I do firmly believe that Jesus is returning soon. So just got that out the way. But, and I'm not saying that it's not good to be planted in a good church home where you do have missionary work. You're called to serve God's people. I'm not saying none of that is bad. I'm not saying any of that is bad, actually. However, when you are constantly using those church activities and just filling up your day with 100% things all church, sometimes it is hiding something deeper. And we have to be careful, and we have to know when we need to put a limit on that and when we need to face those things that, that are hard for us. We might look spiritually active, but we're emotionally guarded, right? And so, sometimes that's a shield for us from dealing with pain. And we have to be careful of that. God wants us, yes, he wants us on the mission field. His word says the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few, right? And so, yeah, that is true. However, he does not want you so consumed, you know what I'm saying, in missionary work, that you are not dealing with the things that he needs you to deal with, because you could be wrapped up in missionary work and you still are out here acting like a pure jerk. And that's because you ain't healed nothing. Now, you can do all the tasks in the world, but you have to really heal and deal with the pain of the things that are just ailing you. Or other than that, you just out here just not really fulfilling the mission if you mean to everybody you come across while you're doing missionary work. But anyway, whole nother conversation for a different day. I welcome your feedback, but also sometimes fear shows up in habits, right? And so, like I said, at the moment, does it look like you're hoarding? Yes. Now, have I been in hoarding situations? Yes. Now, I just try to keep everything that I have in one place, but it is hard, you know what I'm saying? Because I do have a lot of stuff, and I do recognize that when something is enough, right? And you'll see now the cosmetic thing, yeah, that was enough, right? And you'll see that later where I said, yeah, that's it. But those fears do come out in habits that are just not ideal, right? And so those habits can be an attempt to create security or comfort when our hearts feel unsafe. And so we just have to be mindful when we have to recognize, like, hey, this isn't it. What you see me doing is laying down a blanket. Yes, my dogs like blankets. So they have a side, I have a side. Yeah, it's interesting. But think about those habits. Some of those habits are actually just wounds of unresolved grief, broken hearts, broken expectations, all those things. So we have to be mindful when those habits come up. Now, the other piece of that is the need to control shattered relationships. And the need to control these shattered relationships are going to result in you trying to manage everything, including relationships and friendships. I'm mindful, and I'm guilty of this, just talking to my brothers about what it is that they need to do and who they need to be around. However, they are grown. They are grown. They need to manage their own relationships. They need to figure out what's best for them. This is on them. It's not for me. And pieces of me wanted to do that very early on after our mother and our grandmother transition. However, I got to the point where I said, nope, can't do that. That's not for me. I don't care. Now, do I want them hurt in these said relationships? Absolutely not. And they know I got their back with that. But telling them who and what and where, I can only just simply give my advice. It can go in one ear and out the other, and that's where I have to leave it. So that's where I dropped my phone. But sometimes control is often just, fear wearing a mask. And here we go with the stuff. Yeah, that's when I said, yeah, this is enough. I've already given away a lot of my jewelry and had to, yeah. So there's that habit, that wound there. But also, I think, ladies, we have issues with dating and we're single for an extended period of time because we just struggle to forgive, and we really need to forgive. And it's so important that, we get into forgiveness, and it's totally, forgiveness is freedom, just not approval. But I do encourage you to maybe pray and ask God and just let him know that you just refuse to babysit brokenness, and just ask God to make you whole again. And I know it's a task and it's going to take some time, but however, I'm ready to be seen. I'm ready to get out there and date a little bit, and I'm ready to fully embrace and enjoy life. Doesn't matter if it took me almost 5 years to realize that it is time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. You guys have a fantastic evening and weekend. God bless you.